What's going on, guys? I'm the Lone Salesman here, and I'm here to talk about Tales from the Lone Salesman. Now, I originally had this episode pre recorded, but I didn't like how it turned out. Plus, I got this new HyperX Quadcast mic, and I was just dying to try it, so I wanted to record something. So, one of the subjects I wanted to talk about was my journey to Japan. And it's a long journey, and for this one, I want to give you my first impressions of how I got to Japan, my first impressions, and just everything in between. So, to give you guys a little background, I'm from the Midwest, and when I was 18, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. So, I joined the Navy. In the Navy, you don't get a choice from your first duty location. Sometimes you do if you're really good in your class. So, I got a ship, and it was forward deployed, and we went to like 10 countries at a time within like a year. And one of those countries was Japan. Now, you watch my previous video or podcast on Godzilla Singular Point, you'll know I'm a huge Godzilla fan. And did this have an influence of me wanting to go to Japan? Slightly. I've watched Japanese animation. I'm somewhat familiar with the culture. Everyone knows a little bit about Japan, right? Until you actually go there. Uh, so I'd never really planned on it until, now getting the opportunity. So on the ship, we had programs too to help, sailors uh, get the best out of their experience in port. So they called it MWR, which is Military Welfare Recreation. And since we didn't have any civilians on board, one of our senior chiefs, he was a master at arms, basically Navy police. He helped coordinate with the shore MWR facilities and get these tours going. So basically, we just pay and, um, they'd sign us up for the tour. So one of those was Mount Fuji. And I had gone hiking before. I had a little bit experience, but this was, one of the 7 or top 8 legendary summits, one of the summits that all hikers climb. And it's not too difficult if you're in good shape, but it can be very challenging at times. So we left at about like 3 a.m., 4 a.m. in the morning because we were supposed to start at like 5 or 6. Because if you wanted to do it in one day, you have to do it early. So all I had packed was, I had some shorts, a shirt, some running shoes, sweater for when you get to the top when it gets colder, some water, granola bars, and yeah, I wasn't that prepared. I didn't have any hiking boots, and they offered you could have rented it, but I turned it down because now this is just like a leading theme from the story because I cheaped out on some other things too. Um, so I was like, whatever. So you start at the fifth station, which is kind of past most of like I wouldn't say you're at the middle of the mountain, but kind of at the base where past all the forest and getting to the actual main trail. There's other entries, but that's kind of like the main one. So we started from there, and I decided to go by myself because I wanted to go at my own pace. Wanted this to be somewhat of a personal journey for myself, and um, not that I didn't like the people I went with, but I just didn't want to like talk to anyone. I guess. Um, but anyway, so station after station, you keep going. You start out, you're like in the forest on the side of the mountain, and after a certain point, some of my visual listeners might have seen it already, some of the pictures, but you are above the clouds at one point, and it's just beautiful. Like I I was just so shocked, when I got to a point and all I see is clouds, the sky. Convenient the picture just pulls up right now. Um, you see some of the mountains, and it's just one of the best views I could ever experience in my life. And once you're up there, you just keep going. You look up and you're wondering, okay, am I any closer to the top? And then you realize you're like 3 stations away. Like I want to say like the last station. I want to say there's like 12 or 13 stations. You start out at 5, and yeah, at each station, they had food, some shops you can buy. You can get a stamp on the stick. So I forgot to mention, at the very beginning, you can buy like a walking stick. It's like 3 or 4 thousand yen, which is like 30 or 40 bucks, and then you get like stamps along the way, which also cost like 2, 4, 500 yen, depending. And the goal is to get all the stamps, and then put a flag on there if you want, whatever. Um, Something I kind of regret not getting, but at the time I just thought it was a waste. Plus, we were traveling a lot. I felt like it could have gotten broken easily, so I just went without it. And a lot of other people did. They bought it, and it's like whatever. So, we're going up the mountain, and funny story, one of the people that went up with the mountain, they got the rental shoes, right? So their shoe actually broke in half, you know. And so he had to make the decisions like, do I climb up the mountain, go back? What do I do? So what did he do? He took off his shoes and walked up the mountain barefoot. Like I'm not even making this up. Like um I don't have pictures, and I'm over here like I'm in running shoes thinking like, oh, I cheaped out, and this guy's over here barefoot. Like maybe I made a right call by not getting those rental shoes, but at the same time, it's like, damn, it's quite a story, right? I mean, his feet must have been pretty messed up after that, though. Uh, I was like, whatever. So by the time I was like to the last station, I kind of missed my opportunities to get food at this point because I had brought my own. I heard the food up the mountain was overpriced, so all I brought was like granola bars and water. And I'm like, I'm fine until I get to the top. Now, if you guys don't know, you get what's called altitude sickness, and it's for people who aren't used to living at higher altitudes. As the higher you get, the less oxygen there is, so it's harder to breathe. Like if you climb Mount Everest or something, you'd have to bring like a oxygen tank or something. On Mount Fuji, they even sell like canned air, which was like questionable to me because I'm like, how does this like does this actually work? Doesn't I don't know. I thought it was kind of funny. I was like, is this like a gimmick just to sell people garbage? Like, I don't know. So that was another thing. I was like, yeah, I don't need that. But when I got to the top, I had a few pictures away, showing that there's a bunch of shops and stuff, which is really cool. A lot of cool stuff. You could walk around the peak of the mountain, which is nice. It's like a little extra bonus hike. But I was just feeling terrible. Like I had to lay down, take a nap, and I felt super lightheaded. And when I woke up, I'm like, well, I'm not feeling any better, so I should just go back down. So I did, and didn't spend too much time up top. Didn't really buy anything. I didn't bring that much money, so um, as I was going down, that's when the hunger was kicking in. Like I had enough water, and I was just like super hungry. And then going down the hill, it's all loose rocks, so yeah, it's not that, steady. Like, you either have to slide down, like, you can kinda awkwardly walk down, but it's kinda like, doesn't really work. Uh, Running kinda helps too at some points, like, especially when at some point when you're past the loose rocks, you have to, like, go from one side of the mountain to all the way to the 5th station, which is, like, across, and I just decided to run because I was, like, so tired of walking. When I had this energy, but I was like racing for nothing because by the time I got to the bus, there was no one there. I was like the first one, so I still had to wait for everyone else. So I couldn't, and I didn't have money to buy anything, so to eat. I was kind of messed up. I kind of messed up big time. So, my best recommendation, if you plan on going to Mount Fuji, bring plenty of water, bring plenty of food and money, and if you want to indulge yourself, get the stick, get some. You can even get a like something cheap like a postcard, send a postcard from the top of the mountain to someone, if people do that anymore. I was just taking pictures, and this is on my crappy like Galaxy One phone. Like some of the resolutions, if you guys are watching, sorry about that. It's doesn't look that great, but I just kind of wanted to put this together and talk. Yeah, Mount Fuji was great. If you're in Japan, do it. Yeah, if you have for whatever reason you can't, then I understand. So next, I want to talk about my first experience with Tokyo. And let me say this: like, we didn't do jack shit. Like, we walked around, went to Shinjuku, Shibuya, Harajuku, walked around the major areas, but it just I feel like you really need a plan when you go there because it's not like, closing your eyes and throwing a dart at the dartboard, you gotta have something. Like, you can find some random stuff. And there are people who will swear, like, oh, well, I don't like to make a plan. I like to just go. That's cool, but doesn't really work for me. I like tracking where I'm gonna go. So, um, definitely come up with a plan, because we just walked around and it was fun. Like, you could find like guitar shops, we found all kinds of like little shops and stuff. And I don't know. I just feel like, Tokyo has something for everyone. So if you really want to go, just look it up and, you'd be surprised how many places, you don't need too much Japanese. It's kind of tailored for foreigners, really. I mean, there's a few places that won't service foreigners, and they say that, but really they're not servicing people who can't speak Japanese. The main thing is like if they can't service you, then they don't want to have you in the restaurant or store because it's just going to take too much time to deal with you or, whatever. Because trust me, Google Translate just doesn't get the job done. Like for example, like a simple sentence like, "Oh, you want to drink something?" Like sounds simple to us, right? Or you want to drink, the normal way to say it in Japanese would be nanka nomu, like, hey, you want to drink? Or, maybe Google translates it to uh nani ga nomitai desu ka? And it's kind of like the same meaning, but it's not exactly how you'd say it. So um something like that's fine, but more complex things like translating a menu or asking for certain requests, it can be a little difficult. So some stores just tend to avoid going that route altogether. So don't get offended if like the store refuses you. It's not your fault. It's not because you're a foreigner. I mean, kind of yeah, but it's just hard for them to properly service you. So don't take it the wrong way. Or they might have just had a bad experience with foreigner groups. Maybe just multiple. Not saying it's the right thing to do, and money is money, but you got to understand their perspective as well. All in all, Tokyo was amazing. There's so much stuff there. Not what it's a little too big for my taste, but for anyone who's into anything like art, sports, music, whatever, trust me, you'll find something. So next, I just kind of want to wrap this up. Keep these short. Mainly because, I'm gonna make this a multi-part series and kind of to signify too, like in that 3 weeks, like I was mainly working and the two major things I did was, climb Mount Fuji and go to Tokyo. But the Tokyo one kind of fell flat. I mean, even though I got some okay pictures, you just definitely want to go there with a plan. If you guys have questions about Japan or, I know COVID makes things terrible. So I kind of wanted to make this just to kind of show everyone like, hey, this is, my first experience, hopefully when you guys go, or if you're living in Japan, maybe you have a different experience. Like I said, like even those two times I went, like the 3 weeks I was there, I was like, I want to come back. So, my next duty station, I wanted to come back to Japan, and that's what I did. And now I'm like living here. So not in the Navy anymore, but I found a way to do it. So If you have questions about like what it's like living in Japan or certain things, uh, ask us. You can comment on the video, or if you're listening to the podcast, just find us to on Twitter at Ohms Lounge Official, or you could find me on Twitter as well at the Lone Salesman. We're also on Facebook and Instagram. So definitely, give me some feedback. Tell me what your experience was in Japan, or tell me what you'd like to hear me talk about Japan wise, and I'll address that. I do want to kind of talk about my journey of learning Japanese too. I mean, that could be a whole episode in its own. All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed listening. If you guys have any feedback, like I said, hit me up on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, comment on the video, and look forward to seeing from you guys. See ya.